If you wanted to become a millionaire and you didn't know where to start, there's one guy that I'd send you to, Michael Poggi. He exemplifies the focus, strategy, and tactics necessary to create wealth in real estate, and he does it methodically. He's calculated and like a stand-up comedian who tests their material over and over until they can slay an audience with perfect material. Michael, when he's speaking, hosting a webinar, or finding deals for his clients, he works with a detail and lethal accuracy that I rarely see. A lot of multimillionaires that I meet are very closed off with their secrets, but Michael is an open book. He's incredibly giving, and he's one of the few people that I've met whose heart is bigger than his wallet. I met Michael at an event in Sarasota, Florida, when he was speaking about an investment strategy, how to make money investing in quarter-acre buildable lots in resort communities. The community that he was referring to was right in my backyard, and here I was having this major aha moment. I mean, here was a guy who was not from around here, who had a strategy that was earning him millions each year, and no one around me, including me, was doing this. In addition to his vacant lot strategy, he invests in his self-directed IRA, and he's been doing that for years. So he can help people build wealth tax-free using none of their own money. Now look, this is a podcast that I've been wanting to record for over a year, but it's one that I desperately wanted to do in person because I can tell that there's more to Michael than his powerful suits and strategies. It took me a while to get him to Branson, which he graciously came and shared this at one of our live training events, so I nabbed him, and we went into the studio and we put this together for you. He's one of the most genuine and giving men that I've ever met, and he shares with us a taste of that strategy, as well as the forces behind his career. The influential family that pushed him in the right direction, the major successes he's had as a stockbroker in the dot-com era, and some of the major failures that he's had as an entrepreneur as well. Michael's ability to come back to life after a major setback and make a mint and share that strategy with us, in my eyes, makes him a hero. They say you're not supposed to meet your heroes. Well, I'm friends with mine. So here you go, owner and president of the Millionaires Real Estate Investment Group, Michael Poggi. You always look good, man. Like, you seriously impress me. You look good in black. And you look good in red and blue. You normally wear red, but you've been wearing more blue lately.
Yeah, blue is a little softer, you know.
But you look good in a suit. Like, you like wearing a suit?
I do.
You do?
Blue is like a Branson color.
Is it? Why? How
Red
so?
is a Florida color.
Okay, talk to me about that.
So powerful colors attract people. Bright yellow, bright red, bright blue. So over the years, I've tried different things to see how people react. I've tried brown, green, gray, earth tones, and they didn't have the same effect.
Tell me about some of the effects that you've had, some of these experiments.
So I've tried different clothes to see not only how do I feel in them, like do I feel like a firecracker, do I feel like a big explosion, or do I feel sleepy? So if I were to wear, like for example, a brown jacket, I would feel just less powerful. And
Really?
I would be perceived as less powerful in the eyes of the people that are watching me.
Wow.
So as soon as I started wearing power colors, not only did people comment on it, but it seemed to have people be more attracted to the significant, powerful colors of the blues, the reds, and so on. So blue is a soft power color,
Okay.
where red is a really punching power color.
So give me an example of when you would wear, like, and we're talking like accents, right? So a black suit with a red tie or
Yes,
a red shirt.
correct.
Okay, so what's an example of where you would need to wear red?
If I'm going to an area like Branson where everyone is laid back, country living, really, really happy people, and like the woods, like the outdoors, then I would probably wear a powerful blue. But if I'm going to be in Miami, or if I'm going to be in Chicago, or I'm going to be in New York, or in front of a lot of really high-level maniac people, then I would wear bright red.
Okay. This is fascinating to me because
I think about it in the morning when I'm thinking about where am I going to be, who's going to be in the audience, and what would be appropriate.
Well, you are a very results-driven person.
Yes,
Even
sir.
in your digital marketing campaigns, you've helped recommend people for me in my business that you're like, yeah, this guy gets results. And even in our conversations, where I tend to be more creative and try to figure out a fun thing to do. You're like, no, this is tried and true. Let's do this. And I'm like, well, let's try to be. You're like, no, this is tried and true. Let's do this. And I love the tried and true nature of your wardrobe because it seems like when you wake up each day, you want to get results
Absolutely.
out of that day. And like, tell me about some examples when you tried certain colors and they didn't work.
Yeah. Like if I wore a green or an earth tone color it just not only did I not feel strong or powerful, but I also didn't convey that power as well. And that started early on as a stockbroker in Chicago. So as a young man, when I got my first real career as a stockbroker, I went from making 30 grand a year to 30 grand a month. Big difference.
Yeah.
And I was so poor that I lived on a mattress on the floor, renting a place with my brother. And I had one suit. That was it.
You were
one
in Chicago at this time?
Suburbs of Chicago, because I couldn't afford to even live downtown Chicago.
Okay.
So I had to live as far south as I could to be able to afford the rent. And I slept on a mattress, not even with a box spring or nothing at all, just a mattress on the floor. And I had one suit, and I had to wear the suit every day. So I had to drive an hour downtown in bad traffic to get downtown to a stockbroker's firm to learn how to be a cold caller.
Let's talk about this for a second, because I think most people would try to get up and don a wardrobe that, like, they're like, I like this. This makes me feel good. This is good. This is creative. These are a lot of colors. You get up, you don a wardrobe that says, I actually care about the way people perceive me, so I'm going to wear this so I can get the most out of my day.
Absolutely.
Help me understand why you decided to be a stockbroker. Guide us into that part of your life.
Well, working different jobs as a young man, I was always discouraged about the amount of money that I made.
What are some jobs that you had that discouraged you?
My first job was working at a pizza restaurant, bussing tables, cleaning up all the dishes. And so I saw the owner of the pizza restaurant making big money, having a beautiful car, a beautiful home. And then I got a chance to work in the summers in construction. So I was hauling bags of cement, hauling lumber, hauling 2x4s, and watching the laborers put together the walls and, put in the foundation and everything.
Did you have any ahas during that time, or did you just do the work, get the results that you were looking for out of that?
At that time, I was only just a laborer, didn't know how I would ever become a builder. So I thought to myself, this builder is building 3 or 4 houses at a time, over and over and over again. And when I would visit his house, I was friends with his son. I would visit his house, and he lived on probably 20 acres, like you have, beautiful property, with a big giant pond with Canadian geese and fishing and everything. And I said, wow, this is something that I would love to have someday. And when I would go inside the house, and I could not believe how many bedrooms and all the brand new carpeting and how thick it was, and all the big giant garages they had, and warehouses on the property for snowmobiles and four-wheelers.
Opened your mind to what the possibilities were.
I said, how could this be? So my brother, who is actually the opposite personality that I am, very passive, but also very loving, very caring, and we have a great relationship. He was always looking out for me. He said, you need to go work downtown as a stockbroker.
Your brother said that to you? Why did he say that?
Because he was a stockbroker. He went downtown to try it. And he saw all these guys making $100,000 a month. And he said, you got to go do this.
So why is this story emotional for you? Help me understand. And take your time.
Yeah. It was my first chance to actually make some real money.
Wow. Why is that important to you?
Well, again, because I struggled so hard, just to make ends meet. And I saw people doing well, and I always wanted to be, appreciated by my dad and have my dad proud of me.
Yeah.
And since I couldn't do what he did, which was to open hair salons at that time, I was kind of still too young and green. I knew that I had to do something in sales because I wasn't good at analyzing things, nothing like that. Wasn't great at. I couldn't be an accountant. I couldn't be anything like that. Couldn't be a doctor. Couldn't be a lawyer. Wasn't great in school. So I had to be able to pass a message on to someone and get paid for it.
Now, so help me understand this, because I'm starting to get to know you pretty well now. And I know that your dad recently passed, and I'm sure that's why this is all coming up for you. And let me just say that I'm honored to be able to have this conversation with you, because I really do admire you and I respect you, and I hope to learn so much from you. And I want to get into that in just a little bit. But you told me stories about you working for your dad, and you did so well. You had to impress him when you were the way your dad had a chain of hair salons, and you were the guy that negotiated the leases and went in and hired the gals that came in. And you were young. You were in your 20s, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And 25 or younger, right? If I remember your story. And your dad, you grew all of that for your dad. Certainly, he had to be so proud of you, wasn't he?
Absolutely. My dad, my mom also worked in the company together, and my brother and I. So the 4 of us all took part in doing our share.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we didn't do what we were not good at. Since I wasn't great at personnel, and my brother was very good and patient with people and had the patience to spend time with people that kept making mistakes, he was the one that handled the people, and I was the one that handled, scouting new locations and negotiating leases and things like that to help grow the business.
Your first, well, not first, but your, I guess maybe most significant accomplishments as a young man, as a young working man, working for your dad, were helping him grow his, what was the name of it? Chicago Hair
Cutting Company.
Chicago Hair Cutting Company. And you grew that to how many locations?
51.
51 locations, and then had a big exit. Your whole family did.
Well, they were the owners, so we didn't get any of the profit. So we only had the fun of helping build.
Watching it happen, but still the apprenticeship factor of watching that all happen.
That was $1 million
It
lessons
was, Michael.
learned.
It was.
Sure.
Because here's one of the things that I recognized about you, and maybe it's because you were so well dressed. But when I got to BA, I had just decided I wanted more out of my life and career.
Really? At that point?
And so when I joined BA, I had massive imposter syndrome.
Oh, okay.
I said to myself, I don't know if I belong in this room.
Wow.
Because I had just come off of a huge win, and we had, in one market in Branson, Missouri, done $256 million, and I had grown this massive team, and I had decided I wanted to scale.
Yes.
But from talking to Carl Gould at BA, the skill set of going from growth to a scale mindset, I was now dumping all of my money into a model where I would be scaling to 5 states, having to recreate all of my systems, and maybe not having the faith in myself that I could take my brand nationwide. Because I had the same thing when I started my brokerage. I thought, I'm not from around here. People aren't going to do business with me. And in 4.5 years, I was doing, way more business than the independent guy, simply because I'm relentless and I have grit. And I guess coming to BA, I had taken off my black belt and I had put on a white belt.
Yeah.
And there's so many just amazing business entrepreneurs there, because when I see myself as like trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up, I see you as a man with means, with morals, and you've got a message, and it works. It has worked for you. Your vacant lot strategy, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, you're never not going to have money, because I think you only take good calculated risks. You're smart with your money. You know how to get it and how to keep it. And I could tell that about you right out of the gate, and I thought I can learn a lot from this guy, because I'll give up a bag full of money just for some life experience, or for people sometimes.
Yeah, certainly.
And so I need advocates in my life, actually, that'll say, "Hey, Jeremy, don't do that, because you need to keep some of that money." And so I see you as a big brother to me in that, as we continue to grow in our relationship.
Yes.
And so that's what I was really excited. Like, I've been after you to do a podcast for a long time. I don't know if you remember, it was like the second or third BA, I was like, "Hey, let's do a podcast." But it's so hard to do podcasts there, because there's so much value in the dinners and all that. It's hard to separate ourselves.
This setting's much better.
It is much better. And so thanks for, accommodating me and coming all the way out here for it.
Well, it was funny, because when I first met you, I really got to know you was when you came into the breakout session, and I talked about Bella Vista, and you were like, "Hey, I know Bella Vista. I live right over there." I couldn't believe it, because no one has ever said that in 20-some years. I mean, no one's ever said, "I live over there." Everyone says, "Oh, I live in New York, I live in Chicago or Florida." So to have someone that lives where I was so exciting for me. I'm like, he knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He knows that the place is beautiful.
He
knows that it's gorgeous.
I think I even put my hand up and was like, everything he's saying is true. I was like, how do you know this? Like, how did you find Bella Vista? Like, how did you find Bella Vista?
Yeah, well, because I did pay a research company to find me the fastest growing subdivisions in the country that met my criteria.
Gotcha.
Meaning under $20,000 and, has to have roads.
For the audience, we're talking about a vacant lot strategy where you're looking for resort communities with amenities with vacant lots under 20,000.
Yeah. And I came up with a few of them. So there was a total of 4 choices. And the first choice that I tried was long time ago, Texas, in Lago Vista, Texas. Very similar with, lakes and amenities and everything. But that's the one that I practiced on, and I got my feet wet there. And I had such a huge success. I said, wow, if I can do this again in another subdivision similar to that has lots of vacant lots. Because if there's not that many, then you're in and out of there, and then you have to start all over again with all of the research, all of the marketing, learning all about the permit and planning and zoning. Everything has to be learned from scratch. So it's not just as easy as saying, okay, I'll move to the next subdivision.
Right.
It takes a lot to know everything about it. How fast do the houses sell?
The
How
farming
fast do the lots
campaigns,
sell?
the marketing letters that get people to respond, all of that is very detailed. And what you do is very calculated and systematic and quite beautiful, honestly.
And, going back to the stockbroker days, that is so deeply rooted inside me because I saw so many people invest in stocks and mutual funds and either lose money, whether I picked it or they picked it, didn't matter. A stockbroker has no better picks than you do. You know what I mean? In other words, if you were to say, hey, I'll buy Apple, I'll buy Microsoft, you could be just as right as any stockbroker. So you're paying a stockbroker to pick things for you who has no idea what's going to happen in the future. It's guessing, right?
Certainly, though, the stockbroker who lives in that world is going to maybe have some idea better than you. I mean, do you feel like...
I thought so, but I guess I realized I was wrong.
Really?
In other words, even all the other brokers in the office, I've seen them pick stocks where the FDA didn't come out with a drug and the stock tanked to zero, or maybe the company was doing something wrong with taxes and they got in trouble and then the stock would drop, or like Enron or Blockbuster Video. I mean, I can name a lot of stocks that all of us said, oh yeah, that's going to be a great one. And many of us were wrong, including mutual funds. So I just got to see over a period of about 7 years, maybe 8 years, of people who believed in mutual funds and believed in stocks. More than 90% of them never really got ahead. Maybe they were ahead for a while, and then they were down for a while, and they were ahead for a while. Not to say that you couldn't invest in the S&P 500 and do okay.
Sure.
But most people didn't really do that. Most people were not picking the S&P 500. They were actually picking things they thought would do well because they would agree with the stockbroker. So make a long story short is that those people ended up telling me how they were doing overall. Like I would have lunch with them
Your
or dinner
clients.
with them. Yeah. And I found out that they were actually doing way better in real estate. Way better. And some of that has to do with because they had apartment buildings. They had rental income. They had new construction projects. They had land. And so as I got a chance to really, get to know them better, some of them were my dad's friends. They were super wealthy. They would give me $1 million to trade, but they had 20 or 30 million in real estate or more. So as I got to learn more about them, they would say, Michael, the money we give you for stocks, even though it may work out, is really our gambling money.
Wow.
They said that so a wealthy person doesn't make their money by betting on John Hancock mutual funds or Templeton or any of those type of mutual funds or individual stocks. They said that we make our money from appreciation in real estate, rental in real estate, and leveraging real estate. So leveraging is where I said, wow, you mean that you can use $100,000 to control a $500,000 house? Absolutely. Can't do that in mutual funds. Can't do that in stocks. So I saw them making way more money outside of what I was doing. And there was some times where I did make them a lot of money. But even then, it wasn't nearly as much as they can do with the real estate, with the depreciation, the interest deductions, write-offs, and the rental income they would make. And then when they would sell it on terms, they would be the bank. So I got to see them do that. They can't do that with mutual funds either. So all of the things they were doing with real estate were not being done by a typical buy and hold of the stock market.
It seems like there's some things maybe you can do with the stock market. I mean, you can trade on margin, so that's kind of leverage. There's, you can sell short. There's options,
Certainly.
puts and calls. Did you have to do all of those stuff? Did you get to learn all that part of the business?
Yeah, and the people that traded on margin did well during the good times, but got creamed during the bad times.
Exactly.
So I'm certainly aware of the dangers of investing
call.
in real estate on margin, meaning putting a down payment down.
Yeah.
But there was always ways to seem to get out of a jam with real estate. For example, the lender would extend your term.
Because they didn't want the property back.
Correct.
And they're like,
So
we'll give you 6 more
they don't
months.
do
Let's
that
figure it
They
out.
don't do that in the stock market. Secondly is that you had rental income from the property that maybe was getting, was upside down. So if your property decreased in real estate, you had rental income to offset that.
You didn't have to sell.
Exactly. But if your stock dropped and you got a margin call, there's no rental income. You're stuck.
Right.
So I saw a lot of people get hurt, including myself. I was trading lots of money in the stock market, and I had many good years trading tech stocks where I was making, 30 to 50% on my money per year. And then when the market turns the other way and you're not on the right side of the fence, whether you're going long or going short, doesn't matter. You still can be on the wrong side of the fence and get creamed.
Yeah.
I'll give you one example, kind of funny, is that there was supposed to be some good news coming out about Microsoft. So I went ahead and bought an option, and I was going to be betting probably about 40 grand on one option, and I ended up typing in the wrong symbol, and I clicked send, and when I clicked send, I realized that what I did, and it was too late. I lost a lot of money by typing in the wrong symbol for this, and that was just a simple trade.
Wow.
Things like that can go wrong. But then there was some great times where I made huge money on when Yahoo opened up on the market, an IPO. So, we had good times and bad times, but it was really a roller coaster, and I didn't want to feel like that.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to move most of those clients into real estate when I sold my brokerage firm and got out of there.
I remember I was a waiter at the Olive Garden, and somebody told me they were so fired up about it. He looked like he was about a 60-year-old guy, looked very professional, seemed much smarter, had way more life experience than me. And I was this waiter just doing a good job. And he's like, hey, you know what, son? You're doing a good job here. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Go take all your money and put it in Microsoft, and you'll be wealthy. And I have to tell you, I went home and I thought about it, and I was talking to Kelly about it, and I was like, this guy says we should put all our money in Microsoft, and how are we going to get ahead? I'm making $320 a week here.
Yeah, right.
But I made every single dollar that I made pass through my fingers. I counted literally.
Yes.
I was working hard for every single dollar. And I mean, this guy who I didn't know, who I just assumed was smarter than me, made me almost invest in Microsoft, and it tanked. I watched it. I didn't invest in it, but I watched it at that point.
Sure.
See, and I watched it tank right after that, and I was like, I'm so glad I didn't invest in this guy, and that helped me realize that don't take the advice of somebody who's an armchair quarterback. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'm sure he lost a lot of money, that guy.
Yeah.
And how many people that he gave bad advice to probably lost money.
Sure.
Let me ask you this. Going back a little bit in the conversation, so your brother told you that you needed to go be a stockbroker, and was that because you said that because you could make a lot of money that way? Because he was a stockbroker.
He knew me so well.
Okay.
And he was actually an average stockbroker that didn't have the strength and the power on the phone.
Okay.
He actually was so smart that he would tell everyone all of the details and facts about the stock.
Okay.
So he would spend more time talking about the actual stock where I didn't know any of those details. All I said is that you need to buy this, send the money now. And I became top producer and was accelerated so fast that they offered me assistant manager and then branch manager and then finally my own office. So the fact that I didn't know anything about the companies that I was recommending other than it was Microsoft or Intel or something like that gave me the ability to raise way more money. And so since I was also so persistent and he was more passive and laid back, that I accelerated so much where he realized that it wasn't for him to be a stockbroker.
Wow.
And that he didn't want to be a stockbroker and he wanted to be in managing people and growing companies as some type of a manager, and then also owning his own company and managing the people. So he trains people to this day in a big insurance office, and he owns half the office. And so even though he's good in sales now after all these years of practicing, he still is a master of patience and training people and having the patience to train every single detail about becoming a good insurance agent. Where for me, I want to go out and acquire insurance agencies. You know what I mean? I don't want to train people. I want to acquire. I want to buy more agencies. So the difference he and I had was recognizable. And so he knew what I needed. So he was very good at saying, Mike, this is better for you. You need to go here. He just sent me there. He said, just show up and here, talk to this guy. So I sat down next to the top producer in the office. And he was an Italian guy, and he was a maniac. I mean, a maniac. He never sat down. He walked back and forth in his office, yelling at people all day long. And I know that's not the best, model to follow.
His clients, all that?
Everybody. He yelled at me, he yelled at everybody. But he, made $150,000 a month.
Wow.
And he was the boss. He was like the top producer in the whole office. He made just a penny less than the guy who owned the branch.
Wow.
So when I sat next to him, he hired me as a cold caller. And he said that, I'm not paying you anything. I said, what do you mean? And I said, I thought I was going to have a job. He said, yeah, you have a job, but you're going to owe me probably about $1 million by the time I get done with you. I said, really? He said, yes. Well, what I'm going to teach you in the next 6 months before you get your license, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know how to be a millionaire. He says, I'm going to send you a bill.
Really?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
What did you say to that?
I was blown away. I said, this guy's cocky as can be, right? He's a son of a gun, right? So I sat next to him, and I'll never forget, the phones were the kind that had the winding cord. Mm-hmm. And I was picking up the phone, calling people, and I would set it down, and I would read the next lead. And he had bought leads from me and gave them to me. He said, call these millionaires, call these executives. So I'm calling people and getting hung up on. I would get hung up on hundreds of times a day, told no hundreds of times a day, slammed the phone on me. So as time went on, he would say, Mike, you're not working hard enough. I said, what do you mean? I'm here from 7 a.m. until almost 10 p.m. every day. He said, you're not working hard enough, and that's why you're not doing good enough. And I was doing good, but, to him, he wanted to make sure that I really stretched myself.
So what does that mean? What does that mean, work hard enough?
He taped my hand to the phone with duct tape. So I couldn't set it down. So remember, it was a handset,
yeah,
like the old days, so with the cord. So duct tape around the phone, around the receiver, and that means that if I went to set it down, it was awkward. So he made sure that I kept the phone in my hand. He said, Mike, from now on, you keep this phone right here. He said, this is unemployed, this is employed.
Wow.
This is unemployed, this is employed.
And for people who aren't watching, like Mike is setting his hand down
to hang up the phone.
That's unemployed.
Right, that's unemployed.
And then up to your ear
is employed. Right.
Wow.
So what happened was he said, from now on, don't ever hang up the phone in this office or you're fired.
Wow.
I said, okay, I'll do that. So what I would do is I would press the button to hang up and then dial the next number with the left hand, and I would make the next call. So my phone calls went from 200 dials a day to 400 dials a day,
wow,
just like that. So I was giving him 15 people a day that said, yes, I would hear a stock idea.
How long did it take you to get good at navigating the scripts and not getting hung up on so much?
Well, less than 3 or 4 weeks or so, I became pretty good at it and probably one of the best cold callers in the whole office. And,
thanks to him or because of some natural
because
talent
of him.
You had? Okay.
Because of him. I followed his instructions.
Okay.
He said, only say this. Don't say nothing else, but only say this. That was it. He just said, don't ask him anything else. Don't tell him anything else. Just read this and get it memorized and do it correctly. So I kept handing him the leads, and he never paid me anything. So the whole time I worked there, I never made a penny at all. And I finally passed my test.
6 months, you didn't make any money?
Not a penny.
How did you live?
Working other jobs, whatever I can on Sundays, evenings, whatever I could.
Okay.
So
at any point in time during that 6 month time frame, were you like, why am I doing this?
He kept his paycheck stubs on the wall. 100,000, 120, January, 110, February, $125,000 a month. I said, how could that be? And when I heard him, all he would say to them is, listen, we're buying Intel today. Send me $500,000. And the client would ask him, well, why? What's going on? What's happening with Intel? What are they doing? He would say, I don't have time to explain all that. If I explain it to you, then I'm going to not be able to call other friends of yours and clients that I have, and they're not going to make any money. So I got to go. Send the money. And he would hang up on him.
And they would send the money.
They would send the money. And that's how he became number one. He was number one producer in the office.
He didn't sell at all. He just told them what to do.
He told
There was
people.
no sales. There
He
was
was a-
no
he was a
customer
director.
service. There
He was
was
a
no
director.
buyer being correct or helping somebody understand or educating. It was
Correct.
just
No education, just follow my lead.
so it was the raw desire in that person on the other end of the phone to go make money, and a person who lives in a money culture speaking with authority saying, do this. That's let me ask you this question.
Sure.
Do you Did you ever think that that was like an abuse of authority, or were you just like, no, this is the way to make money? Like, did you ever have any?
Well, here's what I realized, that
Dilemmas
he
there?
was a doctor of stocks. A doctor tells you what to do.
Yeah.
A doctor says, take these pills and then don't, take them with food and, don't eat any more of this or cut out the coffee or exercise and call me back in 2 weeks. And he writes your prescription and he sends you out of the office. So he was a doctor.
So how do you reconcile that with the fact that stockbrokers don't know what they're doing?
Well, because of the fact that I would read something and it wouldn't stay in my mind because I didn't like the content.
Gotcha.
If it was going to be about, animals, I probably would have retained it. I couldn't retain the information. I couldn't memorize it. I couldn't study it long enough without getting distracted. So I don't know if it's a reading problem or whatever, but whatever it is,
Yeah,
because I love animals.
I was about to call you, like, you're not the Wolf of Wall Street. You're like the Jaguar of Wall Street,
Yeah, right.
Because you have a Jaguar, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I want to get into your animal stuff, absolutely, because you have an unfair advantage in life, and it's your exotic animals. So, how did you do your first month?
When I first got my license, I had already been really well trained. Because it took me so long to pass the test, I had been practicing so long. The only thing I could not do is ask the client to send in the money. I could ask them how much money they had. I could ask them if they had an IRA. I could ask them if they had a 401k plan. I could ask them if they have other stocks somewhere else, but I could not ask for the order.
Okay.
So it's the only thing missing. But that would have been easy for me because I was already used to
Correct.
not only getting told no, but also asking hard questions like how much cash do you have to invest in stocks right now?
Right.
So it's the same thing for real estate investing. So since I was able to have all those skills before I passed the test, when I passed the test, the first month I made $13,000 in my pocket. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like,
Wow.
$13,000. I mean, that's like a half a year's pay for a busboy or
Absolutely.
a waiter, right?
Yeah.
So I knew I was on the right track. The second month I made $26,000, and then every month after that, never below that.
Wow.
Getting up into the $80,000 a month and $100,000 a month, and that's when I realized that I'll never want to go back to working for someone a 9-to-5 job ever again.
Yeah.
So that guy finally cut me loose, and
Did he send you a bill? He didn't.
he should have.
Would you have paid it if he did?
No,
No.
he was a son of a gun,
Yeah.
tough guy.
Yeah.
But so I got to work in the same office he did for a while.
Yeah.
And I was in a big giant room with 200 people, and he's in his own glass office, and you see him walking back and forth,
Wow.
just screaming at people, and you could hear him because he even being in the office with the door closed, it was so loud that he was overbearing to everyone else in the whole office out of 200 people, right? So I ended up hiring assistants to help me, and they were the ones that had to get my clients on the phone for me and hand me the phone. So I didn't call anybody myself anymore. I didn't have to place any orders myself. I had runners running tickets back and forth to the trading desk.
Yeah.
And I was able to do big volume. And sometimes I would have a $50,000 day in one day, where I would have 50 clients buy 1,000 shares of Intel at $43 that day. And then 3 days later, we'd sell it at $46. They'd make $3,000 in a couple of days. And so I would make my commission, they'd make theirs, and we made a lot of money for a lot of people and had a lot of fun.
So what was it that helped you sort of transition out of being a stockbroker? We've talked a little bit about it. Was it just sort of you were kind of tired of the lifestyle? How long did you do it?
Well, when I finally got my own branch office, that means that my pay rate went up from 30% payout to 90% payout as a franchise owner.
Okay.
And I went ahead and trained 200 brokers, which wasn't my favorite thing to do because, again, I had to train people.
Did you train them like that guy who trained you?
Similar,
Yeah.
yeah, which is to stay on the phone.
Yeah.
But I was nice about it.
Okay.
So I was a fun boss.
You weren't a son of a gun.
No, a fun boss. And we did very well. We did
you?
a lot of big numbers there.
Great.
But I also noticed that still a lot of my clients had their IRA someplace else at a self-directed firm, meaning that they were able to use it for real estate. So as I got to learn more about it, I went ahead and opened up my own real estate IRA, and I moved to Florida, and I was trading my top clients' accounts. So I was trading maybe 100 clients, and still making a very good lifestyle. So I moved to Miami, and started to enjoy the lifestyle of Miami and having my fun of, going to the beach and going to parties and having fun as a young guy and spending all my money. Going to the Bahamas on jets and flying to the Atlantis, staying there for 3 days and, making $400,000 or $500,000 a year.
What's the point of having the money if you're not using it for
Definitely
wild things like that?
But
if you can.
if I knew better now, I would have kept all that.
Yeah.
So with all of the alcohol and all of the girls, I really regret all the alcohol.
Yeah. Your older self regrets the choices of your younger self.
I'm kidding, but anyway.
Yeah.
So learning that, from my wealthy clients, learning that they did way better in real estate and they did it tax-free is what triggered me to say, I really need to be in real estate.
Yeah.
I need to be raising the same amount of money, but into real estate deals.
Was it a clean break when you left?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. I sold my book of clients. So
Okay.
not the firm because it was a rented office. So I
Okay.
just sold my book,
Okay.
basically. Very simple.
Okay.
Sold my book, and that gave me enough money to go ahead and get started in real estate. And I ended up immediately getting my real estate license, and I ended up getting my mortgage license. And I also got my adjuster's license, insurance adjuster's license as well. And so I actually used all three. I was helping people to get loans and getting paid. I was helping people to find properties, but I helped people to get properties that were investors.
Okay.
So instead of starting off with buyers or sellers, I skipped that. And the reason why I skipped it is because I found a mentor in that office too. So I went to the real estate office, I got my license, and I did the same thing. I said, who in here is making the most money?
Yeah.
That's who I want to sit next to.
Yeah.
Same thing I did in the stock brokerage firm. I sat next to the top producer in the real estate office. And he had been there for probably 30 years. He was actually getting ready to retire. And I said, please don't retire yet. I want to be your apprentice for a little while. And I said, I'll do whatever you need me to do, but I want to follow you around. And I want to listen to every negotiation, and I want to do it exactly the way you do it.
Yeah.
So he actually showed me that working with investors would speed up the process of being a superstar realtor. Mm-hmm. So he said, Mike, if you spend time showing a house for a buyer or seller, you're going to have them and make a commission one time and probably not for a long time or maybe never. He said, but if you start with investors right from the beginning, you will save so much time and energy that you will be able to outperform any other realtor in the office if you stick with investors. So I started going to real estate investment groups nearby, all the local ones, all the local RIAs. And at those RIAs, I found people that had money. Some had 200 grand, some had 100 grand, some had 50 grand, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And from that, I was able to bring them ideas of maybe a house for sale that was for sale in a foreclosure or a short sale or at a discount. And I would present it to them. And I would say to them that if I could find you a good deal and it had a lot of margin in it and we can make money together, would you partner with me? So sure enough, I found people that didn't have the skills that I had. Remember, I worked in construction, so I had the skills of knowing what to get done, how to put up drywall, how to do all that stuff. So I started to, buy houses and use their money. And that became
partner
very
with your
successful.
clients
Partner with the
rather than
clients.
just make a commission. So you had a much bigger vision. We've seen a lot of that in our organization too. It's so nice to hear you actually say it and confirm what we've been saying for real estate agents for a long time. Like I realized that very quickly when I got into the real estate game, as I was like, this is a much greater return on my time by working with investors. It's a lot less emotional. It's just more about does the property make money? And that actually, in order to serve those clients, that guided you into learning zoning and learning better, financing tactics and better deal structuring tactics. I mean, I remember the first time that I thought I was so smart because I was trying to save a deal and because the buyer couldn't get the loan, and I was like, well, let's see if the seller will carry the loan back. And I didn't realize that was a thing, and obviously it is. But,
Exactly.
But I was having these aha moments because I didn't have a mentor.
I see.
Like in my life, the reason why I'm 48 years old and still like figuring out what I want to do when I grow up is because I had to figure it all out on my own.
Yeah.
And I won't stop. I'm just relentless. But I can see the value of mentors. I truly can. And I can see the slingshot that a great mentor will provide you.
Super fast.
And I
Super
also,
fast.
I probably was a little hard-headed too.
Oh, yes?
Where you seem to be more humble. Like your brother said, go do this. You're like, yep.
I just follow what I'm told to do.
I don't. I question what I'm told to do. And my dad and I actually had an issue with that when I turned 18.
Oh, yeah.
He would tell me to do something, and I would want to know why. Not because I was resisting his authority,
Right.
but because I truly wanted to know the logic and reason behind it. Because
Yes.
I learned that way. But not so great with mentors, and not so great with a dad who grew up by doing what you're told without asking questions.
Right.
So that was his philosophy, and so I had to adopt that philosophy, but didn't necessarily serve me. And when I tried to serve myself, he and I, had some issues.
of
Of course, we get along great.
Yeah,
My
of
dad and I are
course.
great buddies, and we love and respect our differences. He's my cigar smoking buddy, and I like to have a glass of scotch with my dad. And he actually turned into a different man after he retired. He was just a
of
real
course.
stressed out guy working shift work at a power plant.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when he retired. He just chilled out.
He's a mellow marshmallow now?
Yeah.
That's great.
And I wouldn't call him a marshmallow, but I'd call him mellow.
Yeah, mellow.
But it's nice to have that relationship with your dad like you did.
Yeah.
And it's great to have that influence in your life and mentors in general. So I regret maybe not being in a position when I was younger to listen to people more.
Yes.
Because people would say, hey, you need to do this. But so many of the things that people told me to do were wrong, though.
Yes.
And just old, like, go get a job.
Yes.
Go work overtime.
Yes.
Go put money in mutual funds.
Yes.
And I was like, no, there's a better way. There's a better way. There's a better way. And so I just had to read books. And people would even tell me, like, you read way too many books. You just need to go get a job.
Right.
I'm like, no, there's a better way. And so, I don't know. For me, I've always tried to serve people. And by serving, like your brother,
Yeah.
I enjoyed seeing people move through a transition in their lives. Like, that gives me joy.
Yes.
I started out as an entertainer, and I never realized that the reason why I love to entertain is because there's so much sadness in the world, and so much we need so often to just forget about our problems for a minute. So I love laughter because
That's why you're friends with Shannon, aren't you? That's
Oh,
why.
Shannon
You like
is-
Shannon because he's a clown. He's awesome.
He was the first friend I made in Branson.
He told me about how you actually are pretty good at entertaining. Yeah, he gave me a little bit of the update. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I had a really great entertainment career. I actually moved to Los Angeles and was an actor, and I had an
Oh,
agent
my
and a
goodness.
manager.
No
And
kidding.
I auditioned for the Groundling School in Los Angeles, where they where they farm actors for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And I passed. You can only
Oh,
audition
my
twice in
gosh,
6
wow.
months, and if you fail, they won't let you in the school.
I'll be darned.
And every class that you take, your instructor has to recommend you to pass. Otherwise,
see.
they kick you out of the school.
I see, yeah.
I made it into the advanced class, the one where they actually learn to write for Saturday Night Live, and this was in 2006. No, it was like 2005, right before the market crashed, and I was working as a national account executive for a mortgage bank.
Yes.
Kicking butt with my
Yeah.
sales numbers because as long as I could make some sales and get some loans in,
Right.
they didn't care if I was gone for a 2-hour lunch break to go audition for a Sargento cheese commercial. But when the market crashed, I'll never forget the day. It was like October of 2005
Yeah.
when all of a sudden the inbound calls stopped, and it became an outbound call business.
Yeah,
and all of a
sure.
sudden they're like, "Where's Worley? He's not putting up the numbers, you know."
Right.
But I made it into the advanced classes, and I ran out of money.
Oh,
And
I see.
I had realized that I didn't want to drag my wife, and now we had a daughter at that point. Through a long, the entertainment world is a tough world because there's a lot of schmoozing, and I'm not a schmoozer.
I see.
I didn't want to go schmooze with people who I didn't know, didn't care about.
Yes.
I wanted to get off work and go home to my daughter.
I understand.
Go home to my wife.
Right.
Because that's where my happiness is.
Of
Even
course.
now, when I was in college and I met Kelly there, she was just my good friend.
Yeah.
And I was bussing tables
Yep.
at a restaurant, and I would hate it when I would get to work and I would find out that I was the only busser on because it mean I had to work my
Twice as
butt
hard,
off.
yeah.
Because this is why. I had to finish the restaurant and close it in
I see.
time in order to get home and call her on the phone. There was no cell phones back then.
Oh, yeah.
She was my friend. I just had to have enough time to call her on the phone before it was like 11 o'clock. Because if it
Yeah.
was past 11 o'clock, it's just
late.
It's too late socially to call a
Yeah,
girl, you know.
of course.
And so if I could get home at like 10:30, I could just call her and be like, "Hey, buddy, how are you? What's going on?" I just wanted to hear the sound of her voice. And so that's what made me the best busboy in the state of Missouri for a while there.
Because you're going so fast.
Yeah, because I just wanted to see her. That was my driving force.
That's great.
And I've never really had that driving force for money. Money to me has always meant so many things that were bad. You know, it always meant you didn't care about people. Because I honestly, listening to the story about this man that changed your life and gave you great opportunities, the good, to me, in my opinion, that came out of that is that you got to learn all that.
Of course.
And you're a kind and generous man who does quality things, good things with his money. Money is not bad.
Yes.
In the right hands, money is extremely powerful. I think for me, I value more of the act itself, but like no charity can operate with unless somebody is providing money. Even in my my faith-based opinions, I think some people are the hands and feet of God, and some people are the wallet of God.
Yes.
You know, if I can't go to China to go be a missionary, I can finance that mission, and I'm doing just as much good.
I understand.
You know, for the kingdom.
Yeah. It still works, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I think maybe one of the reasons why I haven't had some of the biggest successes yet is because me and money still have a boxing match.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. Did you ever experience that? Or it just seems like you have a much more black and white philosophy when it comes to making money. Because I look at a guy like you are extremely successful. Like I said, you know how to make money. There's not a lot of negotiation in what you do. It's like this is going to work or it doesn't work.
Yes.
So did you have any issues with money, or did you just sort of...
Not really. I only had issues when I failed. You know, when I would fail at something. For example, you know, along the way there in the middle, I actually was able to buy a suntan salon chain. I was trying to duplicate what my mom and dad did.
Yeah.
I bought 21 suntanning salons all throughout Florida.
And those were super popular for a long time.
They were popular,
like in the
and they
80s
still
90s.
are even.
Okay.
And they're still, you know, very successful.
Okay.
But the ones that I bought, I negotiated with the seller to have a seller-held note, and so that helped a lot. And I borrowed money from the SBA and used some of my own funds, and was able to acquire 21 suntanning salons over the course of 2 years.
Wow.
Very fast. You know, instead of taking 15 years, the way that I learned, I was able to do it faster because I knew everything about lease negotiation and negotiating with sellers of suntanning salons. So the salons all netted around maybe 40 grand each, maybe 50 or 60 for some of the better ones.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 21 suntan salons all netting, you know, 40 grand a year. Not a bad day.
Yeah.
And that was with me not even being in the salons at all. So
You just had systems that worked. You hired the right employees.
Well, my brother helped me with the people.
Okay.
So I knew that he would cover me there.
Yeah.
And he was an expert and really great at it. Mm-hmm. And my job was just acquisitions. But then Hurricane Wilma came around and wiped me out.
Oh,
I
really?
lost all of them. I lost everything and lost $4.5 million of value.
No insurance money?
Insurance doesn't cover hurricanes. They'll cover fire. They'll cover slip and fall, you know, regular liability. But when it comes to something that big, they don't cover that. In addition to that, while you're closed because of the hurricane, you have no electricity. So you have no cameras. You have no way to monitor who's coming in and out. And sure enough, most of the employees, their boyfriends would come in with them and steal the money, steal the computers, steal the clothes, the swimwear, the lotions, and everything got stolen, and there was no way to track it. They would just come in with the key. And for me to drive to all 21 locations and try to change all the locks when I needed them to come in there anyway,
Right.
They had to come in there and clean up all the water. There was water in every single room, and the front windows were broken. There was water leaking from the ceilings into the tanning beds, so you can't turn them on. No electricity anyway. And then I had to pay the employees, the managers, by law, they had to have their salaries paid.
And they're stealing from you.
Well, we don't know who,
Yeah.
but, you know, could have been a
Most
regular employee,
likely.
could have been a manager, we don't
Yeah.
know. So all that while that was happening, then I started getting phone calls from customers that had tanning packages that wanted a refund because they were actually going to a competitor in a bigger shopping center that had a generator.
Oh.
So they would go to a bigger shopping center, like where they had a big giant grocery store that had a generator, and the salon was open up within a week, where mine were closed because of no electricity, no generator, and lots of damage from the roof.
Gotcha.
So we had to have restoration, clean all that stuff out of there. And so I ended up having to pay back $480,000 worth of refunds.
Wow.
And I did that out of my cash, and I did it on my credit cards to keep the business open, and I had to pay $80,000 a month in rents.
How'd you get out of that business?
Filed bankruptcy.
You filed bankruptcy.
I had to. I had no other choice. So that's one of my embarrassing moments. There's no way to recover from it.
But
so
it's
I lost,
one of those
$4.5 million out the door. Mm-hmm. And all the employees were friends of mine and my brothers. They were like your people here. They loved you, like the way they loved you. They loved me the way they loved you.
Yeah.
So it was heartbreaking to have to lose all that. But it happens.
So how did you then recover? Is that when you started getting more into
real estate?
More
I
into
started
real estate.
immediately building houses and flipping houses and everything I could possibly do in finding private money. So I started speaking on stage everywhere I could, going to every single real estate event within an hour drive, and started to have a builder build houses for me. Started to buy properties that had passive income and hire management companies to manage those. And then when the crash hit in 2008, my father and I had purchased 15 properties together. We lost all 15
You did?
during the crash. So it's a second debacle.
Wow.
Yeah. But during all of that, my IRA, which is protected from a bankruptcy,
yeah.
protected from creditors, that stayed afloat, and that's what kept me going.
How about that?
I couldn't use it for living expenses, but I was able to still maintain some kind of sense of net worth.
You could build wealth tax-free, so your future was secure.
So that's all I had was the IRA to use.
That explains a lot, Michael, because you have all these advanced strategies of building wealth within your IRA, and this vacant lot strategy is such a great buy and hold strategy for an IRA.
Sure is.
But above that, you really had a knack for buying on terms and selling on terms.
Correct.
And taking the margin, and that's what you teach in
Yes.
the live events and in some of your webinars.
Yes.
And so how can somebody get a hold of you? How can they get onto one of your webinars and learn these tactics from you so they can use buy and hold strategies?
Sure. They can either email me or maybe even text me, and I can then put them on our invitation list to be able to invite them to a webinar.
Okay.
We've been running webinars pretty much every week, usually on a Tuesday night from 7 to 8:30 p.m., which is Eastern time, Florida time. And we discuss how to buy quarter-acre buildable vacant lots in fast-growing resort communities. And then if someone wants to do it tax-free, instead of using their LLC or instead of using their name, they can do it in an IRA. So we teach them how to use an IRA, where most of the time, 99% of the time, the IRA is full of stocks or full of mutual funds or just cash sitting there. So we help a lot of people every month.
Well, I went down and I evaluated those lots. I looked at them,
Yep.
and I think it's a great strategy. It's a great buy and hold strategy. You've helped me roll over my IRAs,
Yep.
and I'm looking for the right lots. Just because
Yeah.
I'm a little nerdy, I want to be sure that they have A, B, and C.
Yeah, of course.
But really, that's not a great buy and hold strategy. I mean, I really think I am looking to build on them.
Yeah, like
and
we
so
said,
which would be a different strategy than somebody wanting to buy and hold.
Absolutely.
But man, with everything that's going on in Bella Vista and how fast it's growing, even now, I still think that whole entire community is a great place to stick some cash. I still think your system is phenomenal. And, you had some people yesterday at our event sign up to take these webinars. And I've been a part of some of your webinars. They're extremely informative. And you are a great mentor to the
Thank
people that want to build wealth through vacant lots, through their IRA or not. So thank you for doing what you do. You're helping a lot of
appreciate you.
people grow some wealth.
Thank you.
And before we get off, I just want to say that amongst this entire story, there's something that people don't know about you yet, and it's this unfair advantage you have with the exotic animals in your life. And you've told me some awesome stories about these exotic animals. Like you just drive around with them, or you have them, and you have all kinds of different monkeys. You can talk about that in just a second, but it seems like of all the times in your life when you've gotten significant attention from investors, celebrities, women, it's all because you were driving around with a lynx, or you just have these exotic animals. And you did tell me, and I thought it was really kind of special. You said when you grew up, there weren't a lot of other kids, and a lot of friends, so the animals were kind of your buddies.
Yeah.
And so you have a real affinity for animals. So talk to us a little bit about your animals.
Yeah, so we grew up out in the country, south suburbs of Illinois, south of Chicago, about an hour. We had 5 acres, and we were probably one of the few houses around within miles. And so my mom and dad put us there to stay away from the big city to keep us out of trouble. So all we had was ducks and geese and goats and pigeons and pheasants and stuff like that, and four-wheeling and, fishing and everything. So I grew up in this atmosphere out here. That's why when I come here, I just feel so at ease. I love it here, by the way. So I did, one of my other beginning jobs was to go work as an assistant veterinarian. And what I did was I got a chance to work around a veterinarian that handled zoo animals. So instead of just cats and dogs, he handled the Michigan City zoo animals.
Wow.
So when I went to college at Valparaiso University in Indiana, there was a veterinarian there that hired me as a technician. So I got to be in surgeries with him every day. And we were doing a declaw on a tiger, or a spade or a neuter on a lion or an alligator or a deer, or
Wow.
all that kind of stuff. So most of those animals needed nurturing before they went back out to the wild or before they went back to the zoo. So that was my job, is to keep an eye on them and make sure they got their medication and everything. And I decided that I want to be involved in animals, but not as a veterinarian where I had to deal with animals dying most of the time.
Yeah.
So I got a chance to start rehabilitating animals. I started taking in monkeys and taking in raccoons and foxes and, lemurs and everything. So right now we have a big facility in Florida where we rescue exotic animals only, no cats and dogs. We rescue only exotic animals. And I get a chance to spend time with some of them, where some of them are pregnant when we get them and they have a baby, and we then are able to nurture that baby, and they become basically our companions. Yeah.
And I know you do care about the animals. For you,
Absolutely.
you have enough money. It's just more about the joy for animals, and
Yeah.
having a way to finance your love and care for them.
Absolutely.
So
It's expensive to take care of all those animals, especially the ones that come in as a rescue that need medical attention. So, medical bills are expensive and food is expensive. So we are able to at least cover that cost.
Is there anything else before we go that you just want to share with people, or any wisdom nuggets, anything else that you just think might be significant or that you'd like to tell people about? Maybe it's something you're working on, or just anything. Is there anything else you want to?
Well, we touched on how I learned how to help people without really knowing much about the product. But
Yeah.
now at my older age, I'm more like you. I really do care about knowing about exactly what I'm doing. And so when I recommend something to someone, it's because I've studied it and I know it inside and out. So when I help people, it's because I genuinely care about them, and I care about their net worth. I care about helping them to grow, just like I did. And I don't mind giving the details and the facts. So now I spend time with them and make sure they do know everything about the land or the real estate deal, so that they are 100% comfortable without just asking them for the money.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's changed a lot over the years.
I bet. Well, you're a good dad.
Absolutely.
You're a good husband.
Absolutely.
You're a good friend.
Absolutely.
And a good mentor to a lot
Absolutely.
of people. And I thank you so much. I have so much gratitude for getting to spend this time with you, and for coming and speaking at our local event here and sewing into the lives of our real estate team and all the investors that came. I can't thank you enough. I really
And I
appreciate
appreciate your friendship, because you took me under your wing the day you met me. It was love at first sight.
It was.
So I appreciate that. And you always have a friend here. If I can do anything to help you anytime, you can call on me, and I'll climb over mountains to get here.
Thank you.
All right?
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being here with us today. Well, a big thank you for listening to the end of our podcast. I know your time is valuable, and I hope you got a few takeaways that are going to help you get a greater return on that time. I know you will. And if you did enjoy it, I'd sure appreciate a share or a comment. Feel free to subscribe for instant access to new episodes and offers. There's also a ton of free content and ways to learn more and engage more at worleyrealestatenetwork.com. Until then, we'll continue to bring you recipes for success and real stories from real people who, like you, are living out your divine purpose. And hey, God loves you. No matter what happens, don't give up.